Okay. Hello. Hello, Oulu. Yes, I'm a professor at the Computing Systems Department at Stockholm University. I'm also one of the founders of a big research center called Mobile Life in Stockholm. And there, and me also as an individual, I do research on mobile design of various sorts. So it's kind of design-oriented research to generate new forms of applications. And I have a background also in sociology, and I have a strong interest in user practice and trying to understand what users want to have, how they want to use the technology developed. And over the years, this idea of working with enjoyment has emerged, and I'm going to talk about that. So it's basically it's an attempt to get to user demands, perhaps in a radical way. Lots of people talk about user demands. This is going to be a very particular approach into it. So in the end, I will talk about like sensor networks, that sort of technology, mobile technology, but we will start with internet. So we pay a lot of attention to internet, what it can do for learning and how it can use, government, bureaucracy can be supported. But what has been the driver? What has been the driver of internet? What has been the strongest driver? What's going on in the back? One of the things that we have learned in the beginning, no one wanted to talk about this, but gaming has been an enormously strong driver to internet, getting internet to grow. People playing computer games. They were designed by as hacks and by engineers working on the free time with the big computers in the 60s, but they've been growing and they're driving hardware development, network, graphics, lots of stuff like that. So that's going on, and that's recognized now in research. So we have established game research fields and presented here, and the exertion games people. But it's like it's not so old. It's like 10 years ago there wasn't any game research, but there were lots of games. How about this then? Oops. So sexuality, porn, all those sorts of stuff. That is also driving the internet. People are using crazy computing devices to engage in these forms of very private activities. That's not like games. We don't talk about, this is not an established research area. Actually, I don't think it even exists in research. But we all know how it drives internet and the technology we're developing. Social media. It's like small chatting, unserious chatting in between individuals on the dinner they had. All these kind of silly things. You don't, like 10 years ago, I couldn't expect that. That would kind of fill up the internet. Silly talk. It's not serious, it's the unserious. So that is an important part of internet. You see, when you just think about it and start to summarize it, you can see some sort of pattern. And this, the video, the bulk of data traffic on the fixed internet has been video for a long time. And this year, it's the bulk of mobile data as well. So people download videos, and it's like, of course there's serious movies, but there are lots of Hollywood blockbusters, lots of the YouTube downloads, lots of the kind of unserious movies as well. So taken together, this one, I put this one in as well. So now this the kind of new cryptographic technology that we see on the internet, and for instance represented in Bitcoin, and how you can use internet money now, and that's growing. That's one of the new areas, which will probably, cryptography and what you can do with it will probably change internet quite a lot. So now we start to be able to create scarcity, which we haven't been able to do before. And that is a kind of new feature that we will see in lots of areas. Business contracts, shares, money, all those sorts of things. But what's the driver? So again, here we see some sort of, we see the Silk Road, we see the deep internet, we see Tor, we see this, and then we see what is illegal economy. It's people's orientation to drug use, of various sorts. So again, this is floating under everything when we talk about technology and internet. It's this people's orientation to enjoyment practices or hedonic practices, things that give them pleasure for the moment. And then let's turn back to us. And this is images here to represent the new forms of technology called sensor networks, actuator networks. Tiny things that you could build into furnitures all around you. Ericsson, the big Swedish company, or Swedish, not Swedish, but the big network company, talk about 500 billion devices, and lots of Intel and others are talking about this Internet of Things now. You put the sensors in everywhere, and then you can do amazing stuff. And then when we talk about it, the amazing stuff we do is traffic optimization. And then it's energy consumption in the home, the smart fridge. Okay, so you think that's going to be the big success? So, but it's like, this is what everyone, if you go out and look at the Internet of Things, these are the sorts of applications that are seriously, we put lots of public money into. And so us then working with mobile design, well, yeah, here's another one. Here's these kinds of devices you can build into textiles. So I wanted to show that as well. And here's wearable computing. I wanted to point to the wearable computing, where these kind of sensor technologies or various stuff gets into devices much closer to our body. And then finally, like another technical area is the area of organic user interfaces, bendable interfaces. You can have flexible interfaces, it's the first one, but then you can have dynamically adjusted forms and shapes, so shape switching interfaces. Yeah, so there's lots of new technology coming up. We have seen how the old technology has been used. And so the question is then, how are we going to do research on the new type of technology coming up? And I think that is a question for all of us. So if we have this passion for users and want to kind of learn how they orient to life, how people orient to life, so learning from people, what should we do with it then? So perhaps we should do this when we think about organic user interfaces, wearable computing, all that sort of stuff. Maybe we should think about that in more hedonic terms. Maybe it's not just about health. I mean, you probably have heard the word health when it comes to this sort of technology. Maybe it should be, maybe it should be fashion. Fashion is this like hedonic practice. It's people, lots of people love to shop and dress and make styles and take an interest in how they use their clothes. They blog about that, they love shopping, they read about that, and they fall in love with the cloth item, like it's the biggest passion on earth. And then the next day they don't care about it. So it's this like passion and shallowness at the same time. I find that really intriguing, and trying to figure out what's going on here. How can you do that? How can you be so passionate and non-interested at the same time? And this shallowness, for instance, has made the research on fashion, I mean, it's the same thing. No one has done research on fashion until 10 years ago. It's like fashion studies didn't even exist, and now it's growing like crazy in humanities. It's one of the strongest research areas, trying to figure out what's going on in society. What is this thing happening? And we see museums growing, lots of institutions around fashion. So how about learning from fashion, fashionable people? And with that we mean, with fashionable people, we mean people who have a strong interest in clothes and are recognized by others as having a strong interest in clothes. And we are, of course, since we have done research on mobile design, I relate that to how you design mobile phones. And there has been an interest from mobile technologies areas into fashion, not least Nokia. Nokia has had a strong interest in. Our next paper on fashion and mobile phones will be called The Death and Life of Great Finnish Fashion Phones. And they had a fantastic fashion series 5 years ago. That was a huge failure, by the way. No one bought them. Anyway, so we've seen this kind of brand slapping. So you use like the mobile industry. If you kind of put the name Prada on a phone, fashion people will buy it. And we have seen this kind of use of charms and the decoration of phones. So we've seen that. So we've seen some sort of orientation to fashion. What we did was we studied fashion bloggers. We did a study of trying to find all fashion blogs in the world, and then we went through them and see when they commented on mobile phones. Because we thought that if we understand how these people relate, these fashionable people relate to mobile phones, we will learn about the enjoyment they're pursuing and the enjoyment we could have in mobile phones. Unfortunately, we found out that they didn't care that much about mobile phones, which was a big surprise to many people in my research lab. They thought they were so cool and fashionable because they had the latest iPhone. Whereas it turns out the fashion bloggers couldn't care less. Well, actually, we had to work really hard to get some posts on mobile phones on the fashion blogs, but we did. So we gathered like 150 posts all over the world, and then through them we learned quite a lot, such as My Many Bags. Talks about a new LG phone, and you can see how they talk about the visuals of the phone, and you can see how the language, they use the name sexy, black, glossy, and they use this kind of words like rejoice at the sleek outlooks. So they use this kind of aesthetic language, and it's kind of like an expression of adornment of an item, the way you express an adornment of a nice piece of cloth. And they talk about the visual aesthetic of it, the way you can see the phone, and it's basically it's the backside, and this fashionolic put it articulated very well here. That fashion-oriented people are concerned with how the phone looks. So what they talk about is this side of the phone. This gets really interesting. I'm not sure I had the post here when they talk about this one. They talk about it in terms of utility. Or my thumb is so big, so I struggle with interacting with it. That's what they talk about. But when they talk about it this side, they talk about it in the same way as their interest to these kinds of clothes. Interestingly, most of your phones probably have this kind of article number on this side of the phone. So from industry, this is the back side, and this is the front side. But for a fashion person, it's the other way around. This is the front side, this is the back side. Okay, and then they talk a lot about what kind of social circumstance as well. Again, it's is a celebrity, or they care a lot about how the phone visually appears in social situations, such as this one, where Beyonce presents a new phone. Again, they're interested in the visual presentation of something, someone holding up something for others to see, and the celebrity is holding it up, and then the phone becomes interesting. And this is again a parallel to how fashion works. They draw on celebrity, star designers, and these kind of events where you kind of attract the interest to something. And then finally this one. This is quite common, that you don't just present one and think about one item, like one phone, but you think about an ensemble of items and how they work together. It's called an outfit or dressed ensemble. And you can see the phone in the middle, and you can see how the bluish color of it and the white is coming again and again in other pieces. So it becomes a kind of a combination, an outfit. And that is also super important. So 3 things that we pick up from what fashion is and what makes fashionable people interested. Visible interaction, it should be public. So it's not just for me to see this one, it's for you to see this as part of me. And then it's the dressed ensemble, how items comes together as one thing. Okay, so let's then jump into design. And we were thinking of if the backside is fixed, if this is one of the problem we saw, that it's like this is the stable side, and here's everything from a computer science perspective. Here's lots of interesting things going on. Variation, colors, graphics, all the stuff we're interested in as technical researchers. But on this side, everything is fixed. It's like one. You buy it and it's the same for 3 years. How about like trying to think about if this public, visible part of the phone can be made more flexible, and then how should it be flexible to please the fashion people? How am I doing with time, Timo?
7 minutes left.
Okay, I think I will be fine. So then we thought about doing something for fashion-oriented people, and we picked a particular group that's called Scandinavian or Swedish style. It's a monochrome style. It's usually it's slim fit. It's described in fashion books. In Swedish fashion books, it's called Swedish style. Probably it's called Finnish style in Finnish fashion book. But I was like trying to just find some sort of user group where we could understand what they liked in terms of aesthetics and then design for them. So we did that. We took a group, and then we designed a set of shapes that we imagined that an organic user interface could switch itself into. So there are 23 shapes. But you have to understand, the idea is that this is one phone. It can do 23 different variations. It can appear in 23 different ways. If you have an organic user interface, if it's dynamic, if it can change its color and form in lots of ways, why not these 23? And they're designed then to use organic and monochromatic colors in the style that you could see in the street of Stockholm quite a lot. And then we asked people we went home to people that were considered fashionable by themselves and by others, and they had some sort of style, a resemblance to this like Stockholm style, Swedish style. And we asked them to present an outfit on their bed and then select one item from our list. And then we asked them to change the outfit to something else and then pick the item again. I mean, we did this to check if you follow me, to check if the idea is good. To our understanding of fashion is a good understanding. If it was good, they would change to different types of items. That was the hypothesis. And some of them did, and some of them didn't. So here you see a person who did. So first on the left there, she picked that out as her work outfit. And then she picked one of the squarish black shapes, put it in a necklace, and then she said, well, I'm going to after work. I'm not going to change my dress. I will pick another bag, the lip bag there, and then she would pick, you can't really see she picked another black item, but it's more like organic, it looks more like some sort of flower. And she put that here beside the hip. And then she picked another outfit, with the white t-shirt, whatever, blouse. And then a more organic, white formed shape, and finally, like some sort of jeans dress with a black t-shirt, and then this kind of squarish phone. So she, in her mind, they would make sense to use different shapes of the phone. And also, and that we haven't considered that, she put the thing on different locations on her body. We hadn't conceived of that. So here you can see other examples of people having the devices as where is it on the first one? I can't see, but the second one, the brooch, we have the necklace, we have the ring, and this like phone, and also has a shoelace. So there's like also on the position on the body would differ given different shapes. Okay. Oh, that was a quick roundup. So, but it's like the idea is then to focus on what people are focusing on for their enjoyment, or that makes a lot of sense in their kind of private life. That's one of the key thing of this lecture, and enjoyment is such a strong force. So wherever it appears in many forms, everywhere, but then we need to understand it and design for it. And when it comes to fashion, it will be one of the most important domains, given that we will have more and more interest in wearable computing and organic user interfaces. And then we can't just do health interfaces. Why don't we just do enjoyment from start? I think that is one of the key things as well. And then we can do everything. But it's very sad if we miss out on people's orientation to hedonic values, because they are super strong and always there. Although we do so much in research not to pay attention to them. And this is, if you want to read the fashion thing, it's in a paper from last year's conference, CHI conference in Paris. And then this kind of theme of working through what enjoyment is, and theories of enjoyment in social science of various sorts, economy and everything. It's and all these kind of social science studies we have done. It's going to come out in a book next year, Enjoying Machines. And I'm a bit scared, but this is the first time we're presenting the manuscript in public. So it's sent out to the workshop C. Participants have read it, and I'm slightly scared about your comments, but it will be very interesting to hear what you're going to say about it. So thanks.